Hey, you know what? Hang on. Our guest is standing by. He is a gold medal coach. He is a former NHLer as a player, former NHLer as a head coach as well, and will certainly be one again, no doubt. Joining us on the line with a gold medal for Team Canada, he is Kevin Dineen. Kevin, thanks so much for joining us today.
Well, I thought you'd have a little like whaler overload. I was not expecting a return invite this quickly, so thanks for having me on, boys.
If it'll make you feel any better, Kev, we can play Brass Bonanza in the background and throw it right back at you as a Hartford Whaler. One sort of hockey geeky question to start things off. We'll go to the women's tournament, and we'll go a little bit back on your career as well. Leading into the Olympics, USA had dined out against Team Canada, and one of the things that they had done so successfully with all the left-hand shots on the Canadian blue line, they were just dumping it in the right side and flooding it, and that was it. That's where the puck would turn over, and USA was off to the races. How did you combat that in the two games you played against the States?
Well, we always you're asking Jeff about them dumping it into our right corners.
Yeah.
You know what we did is we just had our centermen come back and just get really low and literally stop in front of the net because they were coming hard with one, and their second player wasn't even like they were going directly to the defenseman, so the defenseman would the other defenseman. So it was like two players coming right on strong, and then third player was coming up the wall. So the middle of the ice just seemed to be always open. So we just felt like all we had to do was have our centermen just come down, and you're always trying to catch, you put little names on things, and we just called it low and slow for our centermen, and that's, plagiarized from somebody else somewhere down the line. I don't even know where, but you know what? If that center's low and slow, it just made it really easy for a left-handed defenseman to kind of pull it towards our net and then just pop it to that centerman right there, and then we were off to the races and had pretty good success on our breakout.
Greg, go ahead.
When I saw you in Sochi, sir, and again, congratulations on the gold, I asked you the difference between an NHL celebratory locker room and a women's gold medal celebratory locker room. I wanted to ask you another comparison question. What is the level of chirping like in a women's gold medal game between the U.S. and Canada versus the chirping that you might get in, say, a Stanley Cup playoff game?
Oh, boy. Well, here's where you get into those conversations that you would probably say one thing off air and one thing on air. All I will say is I am extremely, extremely impressed with the composure of our players. And you know what? There was a lot of talk. There was a lot of talk before about how, we were playing an opponent that was more skilled and faster and prettier, and I don't know, all those different things. And our players, you know what? They just played the game. But I was extremely surprised with the amount of chit chat that was going on as that game wound down, especially when we were down 2 goals. And gets back to that karma thing. It comes back, and somewhere along the line, you go out and you do your business and you do it in the right way. And it's amazing that things tend to work out. And a very fortunate win for us, but well earned.
Now, when you say surprised, do you mean impressed with the level of artistry?
No, that's it. It was no creativity. It was just really, really nasty and almost in the gutter. And that's, it's easy to say that stuff now, but it was not a whole lot of difference between the boys and the girls in that case.
It's one of those games, and Kevin, you and I were talking about this in the strategy room a couple of days ago at Deadline. It was one of those games for Canadian hockey fans where it's going to turn into one of those "where were you" stories. Where were you when Marie-Philippe Poulin scored that goal? I mean, I'm sure you've talked to countless people who have maybe, not that you've asked, but they just come up, and how many people have just come up to you, Kevin, and said, "Let me tell you where I was when this happened." Yeah. Like they feel compelled to tell you the story.
It really is, and I guess that's the best example of the level of interest, enthusiasm there was for that game. That doesn't matter if I'm speaking to a relative or a stranger walking through Pearson Airport in Toronto. It was all over. Even today at the golf tournament, I think Quebec is well represented down here in the Miami area this time of year. So there was lots of excited Canadians around, and everybody just, they just it was one of those games that, as enthusiastic and as dominant as the men's game was, I think ours was a little more memorable just by the way it played out and the emotion that went into that game, and and the pride that people got into Canadian hockey afterwards. So. Looks good on Hockey Canada, and a great moment for our nation.
Let me follow up, if I can, quickly on 29, Marie-Philippe Poulin. I was telling you this story that at orientation camp in 2009, I was standing there watching the women skate before the guys, and Vinny Lecavalier came over and said, "Who's number 29?" I said, "It's the teenager, Marie-Philippe Poulin. You know, she's just a kid, but, you know, high expectations for her." And he watched her for about 5 or 10 minutes, and he looked at me and said, "Now, that is a hockey player. She's going to be fantastic one day." Can you tell us a little bit, from a coach's point of view, what is it about Marie-Philippe Poulin? I mean, she was a star in Vancouver. She was a star again in Sochi. She's, you know, becoming, if not already there, the face of Canadian women's hockey once Hayley Wickenheiser hangs it up. Tell us a little bit about Marie-Philippe Poulin.
Well, and a well-deserved title, and I don't think Vinny's going to have to become a scout after he's done playing. I think he'll be all right, but he's got a pretty good eye for the game. She is she can do it all. You know what? She takes real pride in winning face-offs. She takes pride in matching her up. I mean, I had the last change. I matched her up against Kessel's line, their most skilled line, and I did that for a reason, because I felt like they were the ones that could match up with their speed, but also could help shut them down. And I felt that was one of our most effective things, was shutting down Amanda Kessel. I don't think she got used a heck of a lot in the Olympics, but she's a really dynamic player. So that was a good matchup for us. You know, Marie-Philippe is just, she's the kind of player that the best example was a conversation I had. It was we had talked about shifts being too long, and sure enough, we're out on a 5-on-3. And right in the middle of the 5-on-3, we have full possession of the puck. It was about 35, 40 seconds into it. And there she goes, skating as hard as she can to our bench. And we hop on, a new player comes out, gets right involved in the player. And I probably showed it to our team as an example, probably 2 different times in video, of what it means to be a team, because you know what? You never see that. You don't ever see, because it's always skilled players out there on a 5-on-3. They want to be out there. They're out there for a reason. You got full possession of the puck, but she's all about the team, and she's all about the game. And you know what? She's an incredibly special player and person.
Awesome. And then, speaking of another incredible player, some news about your goaltender today. Shannon Zabada is going to sign with, or has signed with, the Columbus Cottonmouths of the Southern Professional Hockey League. What do you think about that?
Well, I had a good chat with Shanny there yesterday, and she had concerns about Hockey Canada's reaction, and I had a good talk with Scott Smith after that, and really encouraged her to go out and explore that opportunity. I think she's going to be just fine in that environment. I think she has the ability to be a very strong player for that team. And I don't think this is one of those gimmicky things that we're doing that to try to draw people and the fans, although I think I'd be naive to say that wasn't on the owner's mind or whoever it is to a certain extent. But she can play. She's got the game for it, and I'm really looking forward to her. I told her to text me when her first start is and try to catch it on the internet. And I'm just thrilled for her. I think it's a great opportunity. I think it's a great thing for women's hockey as well. And she'll be more than up to the task.
Such a great rivalry, Canada versus the United States, both the men's and certainly the women's level specifically. I can recall Hayley Wickenheiser in one of her interviews saying, the nature of the hockey hate between these two teams. She said, "I really wish there was fighting allowed in women's hockey." Kevin, should there be fighting allowed in women's hockey?
No, well, maybe once or twice. Just every now and then. I tell you what, when my first game there, I was like, "Are you kidding me?"
Get a line brawl, Kevin.
And I was like, "This is not going to happen again on my watch." I was like, "Girls, this is the end of this." And I started calling them players and ladies and women, but now I just call them girls since we won the gold. I can call them that. So, You know what? I was kind of like, this is just, I don't think it's good for it. But in all honesty, sometimes there's a player on the other team that needs a good pounding. They need to to answer the bell of, you got to answer to your actions. And it's no different than a lot. It's no different than the U.S. college game. You get somebody running around acting like there's no repercussions to their actions, and they're able to play a very strong game in that rat type role. But if you could put a stop to that just once or twice, it would certainly even the ledger. But I don't think it's going to happen, nor do I. I think that's just emotion talk, and I don't think it makes a lot of common sense.
There you go. Just overall, your Olympic experience. I mean, what did you think of Sochi?
I can't say enough about it. I mean, my first day there, I was out riding a bicycle around town. Canadian Olympic Committee had about 60 bikes for all the athletes and staff in the village, and I ran into a reporter who asked for an interview, and you know what? Every question they asked was framed. It was framed to see if they could get a negative response, and I had absolutely. Not only did I have nothing bad to say about it, I mean, it was just an incredible experience. I couldn't wait for my family to get over there and enjoy it with us, and it was really. Obviously, not even without the ending and the dramatic finish with the gold medal game, but it was incredibly well run, and weather was great, facilities, the food, just can't say enough about it. So it was that was all great, but that's just stuff. What really made the difference was the people, and again, just the Olympic team in general, and that's not just hockey. I think to an athlete, you see the comments coming out of the Olympics. That's where the enjoyment was, where the speed skaters were enjoying the hockey players, and the hockey players were enjoying hanging out with skiers, and all over the place. And a large cheering section for everybody as well, and made for a special couple weeks.
Kevin, before we let you go, you have to indulge me with two questions. One is about your father, and the other is about the Hartford Whalers. First with the Hartford Whalers. You scored the last goal in Whalers franchise history. Do you still have the puck?
Oh, boy, yes. Yeah, that one's sitting in my basement up at our lake house, so I do have that one for sure.
The other one about your father and coaching in the WHA, and I was texting back and forth with Scott Campbell, who played for your father in Houston with the Arrows, and says, hey, if you have Kevin on, tell him his dad was one of the best coaches, if not the best coach I ever had. How much did your dad tell you about the WHA?
Oh, that's great. Well, he didn't have to tell me much because I lived the WHA. I mean, I was there from the ground floor of it was funny. I was telling Bob Nicholson that, my dad coached Bob Nicholson in Penticton. We were actually supposed to move out there to British Columbia, and he was going to take over that team. And then the next thing you know, the WHA started. And we were there from the ground floor. So, I think Scott Campbell would be the first one that I'd heard the nickname Soupy, and certainly not the last guy with the name Campbell that had that nickname. So, those are the kind of guys that were just so special. And, Rich Preston, I got a hello with him when I was out in Calgary for a short stint. And Terry Ruskowski, our paths have crossed. I had a great a note from Larry Lund, who lives in Penticton, was a great sentiment for my dad. So, Gordy, obviously Mark and Marty were a huge part of that franchise. So, for me, that's where my bones are. Somebody asked me today what team I grew up cheering for, and it was kind of funny, NHL team. And it wasn't Detroit that my dad had played for. It was, the Houston Arrows or the Hartford Whalers or, some of those great old jerseys that were in the WHA. Great time, great thing to be a part of.
Amen to that. Hey, Kevin, you got one more?
Last one.
Sure,
one
go
last
ahead.
one. Kevin, did you ever get sick of Brass Bonanza? You can tell us.
No, I still, I don't have it as a ringtone or anything like that. But you know what? I married a Hartford girl. I got. I think after you retire, you might have been to a few different cities, but there's somewhere that you're always identified with, and. I don't think it's one of those franchises people don't have too many bad things to say about. It was a great place to play, and For me, that's just part of the package, along with that. My kid wore a Whaler T-shirt to school today, so I don't know where it's got out of the closet. So, it still lives. I gotta hang with the Brass Bonanza.
That's Father
awesome.
of the Year material, letting
That's
your kid wear a Mighty Whale shirt to school.
Indeed. Kevin, thanks so much. Great job trade deadline with us at Sportsnet as well. Continued success wherever you end up next.
Thanks, Jeff. Really, I enjoyed that. That was I wanted to tell, Theo said that he was surprised at how slow it was, and I wanted to jump right on him and say, slow, this was unbelievable. It was so lots of action, but I was a little scared of him, so I didn't say that out loud. So.
It beats working for a living, eh, Kevin?
It sure does. It's good stuff.
All right, we'll keep in touch. Talk soon.
Talk to you down the line. Bye.
Kevin Dineen, gold medal winning coach, Team Canada, women's side of things, former NHLer. Former Hartford Whaler, Brass Bonanza lover. You know who it was who eliminated the Brass Bonanza, right, Greg?
Who was that? It was, I'm guessing, Howard Baldwin?
It was Brian Burke.
Oh, it was Brian Burke.
When he took over as a general man. Now, Brian, I remember I talked to him once, and he